So, alongside the huge changes to Tarkov's flea market, there was another line immediately after that also gave me whiplash upon reading it, something I have feared for honestly years. As integral as the flea market has been since it was introduced, it doesn't really hold a candle to how vital using the hideout has become in our day-to-day Tarkov operations. These two game mechanics go hand in hand. Need something for your hideout? You just check how much it costs on the flea. To me, the hideout is really synonymous with buying the last couple of items for a module upgrade because you're either too lazy to look for it, or because that item basically doesn't spawn in raid. However, those days are going to be gone sadly, because now your hideout items need to have found in raid status in order to count towards a module upgrade. I mentioned in the previous video going over the flea market changes, but there is an argument that no longer allowing items of any status to be used for the hideout is actually more impactful than the 2-week flea market ban. These fundamentally change how people are going to approach leveling up their hideout. Items can't just be put in your secure container and you're good to go. You know this spark plug is going to be useful for your generator, or that these light bulbs are going to be good for your illumination. This is something I wasn't expecting, much like the changes to the flea. It comes as a 1-2 punch combo. We get no listings for 2 weeks, and now getting components for the hideout just got a lot harder. I worry that people won't even bother with this mechanic anymore, because as tedious, lethargic, and honestly ass backwards the hideout can be sometimes, it's fundamentally a vital tool for getting guns, ammunitions, medications, and more ready to go in the background whilst you're in raid completing quests and looting. This is very much an anti-casual change, as much as I personally really don't like to use that term, and it's something we will need to sit on for a while to see the true impact of it. We won't see the ramifications of this until even a couple of months after the wipe. Now, people might immediately jump on this and say, well, Tarkov isn't meant for casuals. Yeah, that's true. It was never designed with a more leisurely group of players in mind. Tarkov wanted to differentiate itself from the competition by being obtuse and unusually difficult, and it worked. But that ship has sailed a long time ago. Everybody in their mother know about this game in some way, shape, or form. If you play this game, you knew getting into it was going to be both challenging and a grind. And while I'm normally on board with making things harder or steps being taken to bring us back to the older versions of Tarkov, this really doesn't succeed in either of those camps, unless there are some compensations to go alongside this massive nerf to a gameplay mechanic Nikita himself wanted in the game long before it was actually introduced. This change by itself in a vacuum is still concerning. Early on, the basic level 1 modules don't require a ton of components, so it's not too bad to find what you're looking for and use them for installation. It's when you get to level 2 and even worse, level 3 versions of the modules where it really becomes a problem. We now need 14 found in raid light bulbs. My god, is Tech Light on Interchange going to be a war zone. Even still, I had thought about this change that could remedy it to not be as awful as it might become. And that is if BSG is willing to meet halfway when it comes to loot, by simply buffing the spawn rates of these kinds of items specifically in raid a little bit, so that they are more commonplace. It makes it at the very least not feel like a desolate wasteland whilst you're looking for your last working LCD screen. Either that, or they can keep the item spawn rate the same, but just lessen the number of items needed to upgrade modules a little bit. Either of these two changes work together with the flea market embargo and the found and raid requirement for hideout items to make the process somewhat more bearable. They don't need to do both, but one or the other would be fine. I doubt either will ever be considered, but hey, it's still a suggestion nonetheless. It's crazy to think that by making hideout items need found and raid status, the number of transactions that are going to occur on the flea just got really kneecapped. We don't even have it yet, and I can already guess that a majority of people, at least early on, use the flea market to purchase the final items they need for a module. It's so weird. The flea has become such a vital component to EFT that by both removing it at the start and then making hideout items need to be found in raid, I really question how much are people going to interact with it. Obviously, people are still going to use it, of course. It's not going to become obsolete or anything, but we did rely on it so much in early Tarkov. Now some of that functionality is kind of gone. What makes this even worse is that by making items need found in raid, The barters some of the traders have for hideout items have become useless because they aren't found in raid when you complete the transaction. Even the Twitch drops we have been getting just switched to being found in raid as I write this script on January 1st. They weren't at the start, meaning BSG didn't initially realize how narrow-mindedly they thought about these changes or how much of an impact they will actually have across the entire game. Messing with the flea or found in raid in any way has profound impacts across the entire game. Like I said, the flea has sadly become the cornerstone of how the game is balanced, not even just in terms of economy, but how the quests work. Found in raid was created to both differentiate between items bought on the flea and to prevent hatchet runners from gobbling up items with zero risk involved. It's also why the run-through status exists, again, to prevent people from playing the game with little to no risk and all the reward. It's been 7+ years of band-aid fix after band-aid fix, instead of focusing on core root problems that have plagued the game since its inception. At this point though, we are way too deep in to try and retroactively fix it. The game would ultimately need to be taken apart from the inside out, and with the goals of BSG loosely laid out for us in 2025, I doubt there will be any time to fix it 100%. No flea market for 2 weeks is awesome. Genuinely glad they ripped that band-aid off, see what I did there? What hasn't gone over so well for myself is the hideout adjustments. For how much you need to invest into it, making it even more of a grind makes me not want to interact with it. They could up the spawns of items so they are a little more common out in the field. They could reduce the number of items needed for each module upgrade. Something else they could do is make it so that you can still use non-found in raid items to build, but if every item is found in raid, the build time is reduced by, say, 25% or even more, giving people a reason to maybe wait and see if they can find one more pack of screws or nails with found in raid status, so that 2-hour build time is reduced to 90 minutes. Again, it's just a spitballed idea, but anything to allow players the choice of whether or not they want to use all found in raid items is obviously a given. It's crazy to me that these first 2 weeks of a wipe, found in raid is still even a thing. If there's no flea market, then there's no reason for the found in raid status because people aren't becoming millionaires just selling stuff on the market. Let people stuff their last Celoa in their secure container for the quest. What's the big deal? It makes the RNG quests like the flash drives less painful, and it's why people usually prefer quests like the pocket watch, because that's a static item that is always there if you have the quest and you just need to get out with it. The pressure is on you to play well and make the right choices in raid, not if the game is willing to throw you a bone this time. I digress. This has been a tangent long enough. I am worried about the hideout changes, but at the end of the day, I know deep down it's ultimately not going to change that much. People that normally finish the hideout will still do so, but it'll just take a little longer, and those that seldom used it before maybe just won't touch it. Either way, it's a change I wasn't expecting at this point, and I'm just more curious about what things will look like and what people are going to say in like a month or so. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on found in raid items only working for the hideout, if you prefer this or not, and be sure to subscribe for more videos about literal game-changing adjustments to mechanics that are so much more integral to the game than many players or even BSG gives them credit for. I hope to see you in future ones.